I didn't quit my job to build something mediocre. Starting was even that, but then you have moments of external validation, I don't think that's underrated. Your first check, your first customer, not just your first customer, but your customer liking you and getting value from you, and those screenshots of people saying, loving, like active users saying, this is amazing.
Breaking rules is how we grow. No limits, no
Thank
ceiling.
you, Gabriella. It's so nice to have you on Building Iconic today. And we're going to hear about what you're building and how you're becoming iconic yourself. So tell us a little bit about you and a little bit about what you're building, Dessn.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited for this conversation. My name is Gabriella. I started Dessn about a year and a half ago with my co-founder Nim. We quit our jobs. Our background is mainly in startups. That's all we've ever done. We're like born and bred startup people. And he and I actually met about 8 years ago at our first jobs and first startups. And we've been working on and off together since. We've been working in conversational AI, full circle moment with the market now. But we started in that area. Nim after that joined Unsplash. I joined a company called Planned in event tech. I joined quite early, so I got to grow it from very little to when I left, we were in millions in revenue and thousands of users. So I got to grow something and be a part of something really great. And the team there is just amazing. After Unsplash, Nim joined Planned, and so we got to work together again. I was head of product and he was head of AI. And then about a year and a half ago, there was something in us that wasn't leaving, and so we decided to quit and start Dessn. And what we're building with Dessn, the goal is really to enable product managers and product designers to exist in production and exist in this world that we've never had access to. Really, we started the company with the conviction that a lot of the pains in the product development process and in product teams are rooted in the fact that we live in different sources of truths. But there is objectively one source of truth to your product, and that is the code base and production. And access to this environment used to be blocked by a skill barrier, right? You had to know how to code to access prod and to access the code base. And we abstract all of that away. And we think that if we all work and exist in the same world, in the same medium, then we'll have significant impact on happiness and on speed and quality, really.
Yeah, when I first heard about Dessn and we chatted about Dessn, I was so delighted about how you were thinking about it. And the single source of truth is so important. And as you're building something and as it reflects to the user, because you're right, the sources of truth that you're talking about for those that, don't maybe work in tech and know the sources of truth, but the source of truth for a designer will be like Figma. Like, oh my gosh, it looks so perfect in Figma. Everything is perfect. It's pixel perfect. This is 5 pixels. This is 10 pixels. The font's 14 pixels. Oh my gosh, it's delightful. Look at this gradient. And then you take it into production and it gets coded and you're like, that is not the same. It doesn't look the same. It doesn't function the same. The motion isn't the way that you thought it was going to be. It doesn't come together. And so the source of truth for the customer is very different from the source of truth from the design team if they've built it in Figma. And so now those worlds with what you're building can merge together, which is like a very delightful thing.
Yes, I'm super excited, and we see the impact that it has to actually exist in that world. And I mean, it's hard to quantify quality. How do you quantify the impact of pixels and typos and that kind of thing? But they're important. And they've always been important, and they're only going to get more important. And that's why we've been focused on a visual interface and a design interface. A lot of other tools in the market are doing an amazing job at leveling up devs and giving them more access and like kind of enabling them to move faster. But we've decided to focus on the designer persona and the PM persona, but bringing them into that world. And that's the way we want to solve that problem, instead of a lot of tools actually in our space are frustrating slightly to me because they create decision fatigue in the industry, and our space is crowded right now, and it's loud and it's hyped. But it's frustrating because I actually think a lot of them make the problem worse. They actually pull you further away from the code base and then further away from Figma. And now you have multiple tools, and your tool stack and your tool chain has now further fragmented. Whereas with Dessn, even though it's a tool, it's anchored in the same source of truth as devs and as your product. And so we think we collapse the tool chain, and we like collapse that fragmentation quite a lot. And that really is our goal. And I think that's the way you have impact. We're not stuck to a specific solution per se. We will navigate the idea maze and how to design and what to build as we build with our customers. But we do have very strong conviction that being anchored in the code base is the right and only way actually to solve this problem properly. And people have been trying to solve this problem for decades. Like, it is kind of the holy grail of problems to solve because the impact is that big. And it is an extremely hard problem. And the team and I, we will be like, we picked such a hard problem, but it also makes it really fun. Yeah.
If it wasn't hard, it wouldn't be worth doing.
I agree.
That's the thing, is if it's not hard, then anyone can do it.
Agreed.
And then it's really not worth doing, because there's going to be 25,000 other people who could do it.
Exactly.
So it sounds like you picked a good problem to
I
tackle.
agree. It's definitely we think it's the right problem, and we have a unique solution to it. So, we're excited.
Yeah. Explain to us what's different about Dessn compared to these other tools that are on the market today.
So there's a few things. One, you can't start a project from scratch on Dessn. A lot of the app builders or design to code things and applications require you, or at least the main option is starting from scratch, right? You're going to start an app. There is no existing context for you to be able to plug into. And actually with Dessn, you can't start anything from scratch. You need to have a repository, and we plug into your existing code base, and we build a design environment around it. And so another difference with every other tool is that they all start somewhere and try to work their way back to code. Well, we actually start from your code base and, again, build a design environment around it. That's how we anchor to your source of truth. But that really is a big difference, because every other tool that claims production ready code, it's not going to be production ready if you don't exist in that environment to start with. And we're seeing really great results. So you actually can't push a PR directly from Dessn anymore. We've deprecated that feature. We experimented with it. We definitely want to go back to it one day, because we think it closes the loop completely on our mission and our vision. But for many reasons, we've deprecated that. But we are seeing really great results on like the amount of code that devs are able to reuse. Like, I've gotten screenshots and Slacks from like devs saying I was able to reuse 90% of the code. Dessn basically did the whole thing for me. I love this thing, things like that, which are validating and promising in our path. Even though you can't push a full PR, that's still there. And we haven't worked on code gen. It's by far the highest quality on the market because we're the only design tool that exists in context of your code base. So it's by default going to have that quality bar that no other tool has. So I think those are basically, those sum up the main differences. Right now, I would claim that we are also the only ones that extract your design system and work around your design system. Again, every other tool, I think, makes the design system problem worse, because the way they solve it is they'll ask you to redesign or like create a library in their tool so that you can design with it. But now you have a new source of truth or a new version of your library and of your system to operate in. So it actually makes the problem worse, in my opinion, there. They will solve the surface level problem of designing with your design system, even though it's a very painful way to get there. I think it's like it can solve that value prop, but that's not what we're trying to do. We are trying to change how you build software and change how you design and build software. It's not just the the design layer, and now you have the handoff problem that is still super painful, if not worse. We it's not that surface level, the problem that we're tackling. We're really going deep on how teams build. And that's why on our mission page, one key thing that we've noted from day one is that we think that when we achieve our mission, everyone becomes a builder. And these roles start to collapse because your source of truth has collapsed, your tool chain has collapsed, and collapsing these things also collapses roles and responsibilities because now we all have access to skills that we never had access to before. And so inherently the roles are going to have to change. And the word we've kind of adopted or like to use is builder. Maybe another word will come up. But for now, that's really how we feel. And our team is also representative of that. Everyone that builds Dessn designs and codes and is just a product thinker and is everything. And so it's also very cool to be able to build a product that to solve a problem that I've felt so deeply, and be able to build a product that philosophically also like aligns so well with like how I see the world and how I think we should be operating as teams. And now I get to build a product to make it happen. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, it is incredible. And I love how excited you are about solving this and how excited you are about the problem itself. I'd love to hear a little bit more about where you see like how teams are operating now before Dessn and the vision of where you see them operating later down the road, like 5 years from now using Dessn. Like what's the difference? Because you said it's going to collapse and there's going to be more builders.
Yes.
What does that picture look like?
I think the scope of ownership is going to democratize, maybe for lack of a better word. And I think we're going to be less specialized. I think there's going to be specialities, but again, now we have access to different skills that we've never had access to before. So the level of specialization is going to get even more niche, I think. So I lost a thought, but yeah, I think that's one key part. I think a lot of people, yeah, are just going to have access to. Oh, that's I got it back. I'm so sorry.
She found it.
Thank you. I'm very sorry. Okay, I think LLMs and AI and this like platform shift at its core, what it does is it moves us up the leverage stack. It allows us to automate away the low leverage activities and tasks and moves us up to higher leverage work. I would argue that potentially moving pixels was always a low leverage task because as a designer, your mission and your goal is bigger than that, right? It's designing a great UX. It's designing a great experience. And moving pixels was our way of getting there, but it's tedious. It can be not fun. And like as long as we yeah. So I think for us, it's more like what is the outcome? What is the joy? What is the core of what we like to do as humans, and how can we amplify that as much as possible and take away the tedious parts of our jobs. And so I think the role designer used to come with this like label of how to move pixels around. And I think that may go away completely. And now your role as designer is just that, like able to design or build really great experiences, no matter what tools you have available to you. And I think that's going to amplify across all the roles, right? Like the low leverage is going to go away, and we're going to focus more on the impact that you're able to have on the organization and the org's goals and users and that kind of thing.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting time to think through, like, I think through this a lot with Babco. It's like, what is design now? How will it change? How will it evolve? Just speaking about the designer role itself and how is that changing? And I think from the background in design that I come from, it's always been about, like you said, creating the optimal product experience.
Yes.
So the end user feels that. And even though you said, I know you said pixels, misspellings, how does that really add up to metrics? But it really adds up to trust.
Exactly.
And so I think that the designer's job is to build a brand of trust. And part of that is to make sure that all the pixels are perfect. And that simple part right now is so hard. It's like for
Exactly.
me to go and check to make sure all the pixels of any product, all the misspellings, everything is exactly the way that I want it. It would take me weeks. I have to hire a QA, someone to QA it and take screenshots and make sure that it's all mapping up. And I think there's tools out there, so many tools out there that help this process. But if you're
Yes.
talking to end flow, that everything is 100% perfect. This is the
Yes.
one thing I loved about Dessn, because you
Yes.
guys are focused on, you're like, I could input into a, I think you said you could put into the dialog box. You're like, you just type in, like, make me an
Yes.
onboarding flow. And that
Yes.
onboarding flow is going to be completely pixel perfect to all of your design specs and all of your components and all of your
Yes.
colors and all of your
Yes.
typography. And it's like,
Yes.
I don't have to check anything. Like, I
Yes.
know that it's perfect.
Yes, and that it aligns with your product because we have the context of your product. So our agent actually looks at other contexts, at how you've built other modals, at the design language that exists in your code base, and it picks up on all of that. And then I totally agree. I see a future where we're also proactive in like, hey, there's a typo here. I fixed it for you, right? Like there is no reason why, and that was a big part of my last, and we still joke about it. I think they call me the eagle because I would find every typo and every uncapitalized word that needed to be capitalized. And so it's very core to me. Like I care a lot about that. But it wasn't a great use of my time to be finding those, right? And there is no reason that humans need to still be finding those, right? Like we can be focused on creativity, brand, like those pieces that are uniquely human, while hopefully the typos and the pixels can be solved through automation and through LLMs.
I think there's one interesting thing just related to AI that I'll say is that sometimes when I see a misspelling now, I'm kind of like, oh, well, a human wrote that. There's kind of like a little bit of peace in it.
That is actually a really interesting take. I forget where I was reading, but which article I was reading, but it did talk a little bit about this and how, I mean, in any world, in any process of commoditization, the pieces that stay high quality or unique are then valued higher, right? Because they're more scarce. So I think I can't remember, unfortunately, the article or the post or that kind of thing, but there was content around what this is going to mean for products and for websites. And is there going to be a stamp that says like built by a human? And is that going to be the unique identifier? Yeah. And in this, like, we all know, how our world is commoditized these days. And so the pieces that are scarce are the ones that we like place more value on. And so is that going to happen with software is a very interesting thing to think about as well.
I I would say that the same thing that happens today will happen again in that, you know, we want things like you said that are unique and
Mm-hmm.
the thought that's put into it makes it unique.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you look at brands that are thinking of ways to use, even if they're using AI, but they're using it uniquely,
Mm-hmm.
those are the brands that are continuing to kind of stand out. And
Agreed.
so, yeah, you have brands like you have brands that are going to use things like Squarespace, right? Like you can build
Yes.
your own website, you know,
Yes.
but then you're going to have brands that are going to do things that are more elaborate, more creative, and more outside of the box. And people are
Yes.
going to look at that and they're going to go, wow. I think of it as, you know, I would say it's art. Like when you
Yeah.
want to stand in front of a piece of art and you're like, that is blowing my mind because it's
Yes.
so different. Like that's
Yes.
what we're going to need. We're going to crave that. We're going to see there's going to be 99% of everything will be the same. And then that
Yes.
1% that stands out, you're like, oh, wow.
Yes.
To get to that, oh, wow, that, you know, you're going to have people who are vibe marketing and they're going to do all these things that are, but to stand out and to really think through how people are going to captivate people from
Yes.
like, I'm not talking about captivate people like just 1 second. I'm talking about captivating them long term to maintain your brand over time. I'm not talking about 1 second, one blip. I'm talking about
Absolutely.
brands that are like this is why we call this building iconic. Because to
Right.
build something iconic, it has to sustain time. So
Absolutely.
it has to be timeless.
And the layer that communicates that is the design layer, right? It's what you're seeing, it's what you're feeling, it's what you're interacting with. And that's also one of the reasons that we've decided to focus on that layer, because I agree with you. That is the layer that's going to differentiate you from everyone else. It's not actually the code. It's not the CSS underneath. It is what you're looking at. And so that's why from day one, we've focused on that side of the development process and not coding. Very noble pursuit still, totally. But it's just, I think our heart is there. Our humanity is in the design process. And I do think design and engineering, I can't even separate them, to be honest. I think design is everything. I think design is, if there's a hook under the table at the bar, if there's how much salt is in my food, it's right. It's how you experience literally the world. And once you see the world through that lens and that perspective, it's very hard to unsee it. I use the word UX way too often. My friends are like, Gab, you're not at work. Like, come on. But it is my identity, and how I perceive the world. Everything is design. And so I also, there are debates around what is design and what is engineering. And again, our whole goal is to collapse everything, right? Like it is one and the same. Building product is building product. And yeah, that's just something the team and I think about often as well.
I can't tell you how much I resonate with the idea that design is everywhere. And I have to say it drives me nuts sometimes because I'm just trying to go somewhere and all I can see is the problems with the things that weren't designed well. I'm like, why was it done this way?
Absolutely. The table, the door, like the way you turn on a light, like it is really everywhere. It's kind of beautiful, but also, yes, can be overwhelming.
It can be overwhelming, but I love that you said that it's in you now. And I would
Yes.
never remove it from myself, even though it does drive me crazy sometimes because I could notice that anything that's incorrect or wrong, I could tell you in a second.
I
Um,
agree.
yeah,
I fully agree. It's actually a kind of a fun exercise.
you're like, if you want me to rip your product to shreds, please let me. I will.
That could be another podcast episode.
Oh, you just pull up people's products and rip them to shreds. Actually, people would probably listen to that.
That would be a bit brutal. I
That would be a bit brutal.
would not, I would lose some followers, I think.
We won't do that. Well,
No.
I know that you're so big on design and you're so thoughtful about how you're building your product with Dessn too. How do you think about building up the team at Dessn and as the founder, bringing on new people to help you build this vision that you have?
We think about the team a lot. We think it's actually the number one most important thing. Nim and I, from day one, we think we're great. We think we're exceptional, and we don't want to work with anyone that is not exceptional, just as people, right? Like it's going to be draining. It's going to be frustrating. It's just not going to make our lives fun. We do think it is the number one most important thing. I think, people make or break your company. It is as simple as that. We've actually relocated to London, UK, because we think that there's access to talent and people here that can make Dessn successful. So hopefully that pans out. And it's starting to prove to pan out. We've hired Jess, who's amazing. But it took a while. Actually, we were working with another recruitment firm who actually kind of low-key fired us because they were super nice about it and they're a really great firm, but they felt that they couldn't help us, at the end. And I think and then you start questioning yourself and you're like, am I being too picky? Is what I'm looking for, does it actually exist? And it does exist because Nim and I are that, and so even though it's rare to find these people, they do exist, and we're also surrounded by them in so many other places. Unfortunately, none of the people that we knew were employable, so but they are proof that people like what we need are out there. So it took quite a long time, but we do have two people on board right now. We have Kevin and Jess, and they're both amazing. And we don't use Figma. We don't because we build and we are the ethos of Dessn, and I don't think there's any other way that we can build Dessn without being the people that we're building for, right? And that we want the mission that we want to achieve. what we're trying to do is democratize this skill set, right? And get everyone to be able to contribute in the same way without the learning curve, and the pains of getting there. So yeah, that's kind of how we think about the team. We also don't believe very much in like departments and titles and things like that. We haven't thought like too much that far ahead, but I think to some extent maybe everything is under product, right? And we don't have like specific departments. I think that the like building silos between marketing and sales and product, and customer success can be very dangerous. Um, and it's very hard to undo, I think. So we are going to be very intentional about how we build out these other functions. They are other functions and there are other skill sets, and so, not everyone is contributes to production in that way. So we understand that. But we do want to be very intentional about how close we are, because I think that the way you make right decisions is by having access to as much information as possible, right? And so how do you keep the spread of information as democratized as possible? I know I'm saying that word quite a lot, and I hope it's not like a buzzword, but it's that spread. Like Nim and I are very transparent about everything that we do with the whole team, the decisions that we're making. We make decisions as a team. We want to try to keep that alive for as long as possible, because I do think it's a competitive advantage. I think your process and how you work can be the reason you win. And so we think a lot about how we work, and we try to be very intentional about it. We don't have any ticketing system. We have one recurring meeting. I'm not anti-meeting. It's just not necessary when you're working so close together. Like a meeting is supposed to be like a spread of information, right? But when you're working so close together, that spread of information is constant. You don't need a set time to allocate to that. And so we try to build Dessn around all of this. And Nim and I are also very good friends, and we joke about a lot of things, and we are also very human. We love food and life, and so that also permeates through the company, and I don't want to lose that ever as well.
I I love the phrase that you said that, I want exceptional people, and definitely don't lower the bar. And
Yes.
I love that you're holding out, because you're so right that's where the company is successful. And I
Yes.
think that, you said the right people and the processes, and that's like so true. So
Yes.
true. And when you're small and nimble and like you can get things done quickly,
Yes.
that is something that can make you successful, more successful than the bigger companies that are out there.
Absolutely. Totally agree. And Nim and I are also executors. Like for over a year it was just us two, and we built, and we got a ton of learnings, and you we're not just we're not managers. Actually, we really don't want to be. It's something that we actively are trying to avoid. We are good executors. We know how to build, and we want to keep contributing, because we're good contributors. So it's not that also we're not thinking about like hierarchy and things like that. It's just we want to be a really great team, that can build this thing together. That's the only way we see the team.
Incredible. And you're like, we're so amazing. You all need to be as amazing as us. And I love that energy.
Pretty much.
I love it. So, I mean, now that you guys, you're growing your team, you positioned yourself in a location that you find that is going to be the right fit for you to continue to grow. Like, what's the next phase of Dessn? What's the next quarter look for you all, and like, what's the next year?
Yeah. We've been pretty heads down building with our customers for the last like 9 months. So we've iterated a ton, even did, I guess, a small pivot, whatever you want to call it, but just build mode and learning mode. And we're getting really close to something that feels really good. We have a bunch of people getting genuine value. Their workflow is changing. Like we see it working. We're still very early and there's so much to keep going, but it is getting to a state where in and of itself right now, it can provide value to people. And so we are planning in the early year to launch a bit more publicly. Right now, like you can't just sign up to Dessn because again, we connect to a code base and we do a lot with that source of truth. And so we have to build that tech layer that is able to do that. We have to make it self-serve, right? So you can just kind of like sign up and get that value quickly. And that is not a small thing to do at all. You can imagine code bases are messy and we don't want to require you to do any work. There's a product constraint that we've put around our launch and our product. And that is basically zero implementation cost. We do think constraints breed innovation, and it's allowed us to build something pretty incredible. Thank you, Nim, for many nights. You're just banging your head against the table and you're throwing things at the wall. And this is also like this is the only way I think you get a truly innovative solution. If you can predict it, it's not innovative. That's what Nim says. And so we try to push ourselves to build around that principle. But yeah, we've been building and learning, talking to our users and our customers very often, and they're all amazing, and they're there for you, and they give you time, which is an immense value add for us. In the last like 9 months, our space has gotten very crowded. There's a lot of hype. A lot of people are very loud, and a lot of claims of like the first and the best, and all of this loudness that we've chosen not to partake in, and that can be hard. Honestly, it's not easy, but I do believe that we're doing the right thing. Like we're operating in the right way. It's easy to get distracted. It's hard to put your head down and build. And so that's what we've been doing, and we're gearing up for a more public launch, a few very exciting features, potential like raise announcements, things like that. So all in the new year will be there will be hopefully a big bang coming up, which is exciting. Yeah, I'm just kind of gearing up to be ready for it. It's another stage of the company, right? Like there was pre-seed and where we are going. I know that they're different, and each chapter has its own challenges, and we're very excited for the next chapter.
I I just want to say that your thoughtfulness and your strategic application of how you're thinking through your company is incredible. It's one of the reasons, like after our conversation when we first met, I was like, I have to have you on the podcast because I love how you think through in your strategy and how every detail, it's like you're building your company. It's like the pixels. You're looking at all the pixels, and there's just a level of care and true craft in everything that you're building. So I'm really looking forward to continuing to follow along what Dessn is building and what you are building. So maybe we'll have you on again when you reveal.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Olivia. It's truly appreciated. Thank you for saying that.
It's well earned. You earned it. Like
Thank
it was,
you so Thank you so much. It's the team. They're amazing. And yeah, I feel very lucky.
Yeah. I think that, successful people have a luck to them, but I always like to, even remind myself that it's like, well, yeah, I am a lucky person, but I'm also successful because of the things that I did. There's like this like power in knowing. The first phase of my life, I was like, oh, well, I'm kind of just like doing these things and it's kind of working out. But I'm like, no, I did these things.
You're right.
And I own that. And I made myself successful because I put in the work.
I agree. I do very much believe that you create your luck. And after you've been doing it for so long, you do see direct causation. Like it's not just correlation. It does become causation. And as a founder, you have to keep trying and keep going and, you have to keep creating your luck like every day. And it's hard and amazing at the same time.
And when you're saying create your look, And I know that y'all are thinking from the ground up very different and very strategic
Yes.
about how to position yourselves within the market when there's a lot of competitors.
Yes.
Um, how do you kind of see that long term? How are you going to come in and like open up and ensure that Dessn is like one of the big players?
Yes. I think a few things. I think one is we are going to have the better product. I fully believe that we are building the better solution. And for some reason, we also have some amazing people in our camp with really great networks. And camp, I mean, like, on our side with like really great networks that are willing and excited to yell from the rooftops about what we're building when we're ready to yell. And um, and I again create your luck, but I still feel lucky, that people care. Um, but they're caring because we're building the right thing and we're doing something novel and great and has really, really huge potential. So I do think it's going to be a mix of those pieces that are going to place us where we need to be. We're just going to keep building the right thing. It doesn't mean it's a perfect product. It doesn't mean it's not going to have its faults and bugs, and it doesn't mean we're not going to make wrong decisions sometimes. But I do believe in the general, I really have full conviction in the team, and that we will get to where we need to go. Whatever that path is, there's going to be obstacles. There already have been so many. It's hard. It's very hard work, and there are days when you want to give up. But it doesn't come close to it because the conviction is just like the pure belief is there. And I just don't want to be doing anything else anyway. This is kind of the only thing I want to be working on. It's a really fun problem, even though it's very hard. But yes, I do think, sorry, back to your question, I do think it's going to be, building the right thing and having the truly and genuinely the best solution on the market, combined with people that believe that, right? And people that, you're going to believe that if you try it. If you believe in the team, there are so many things that build that trust, but I want to build that trust. And I think that's how you win, is you build trust. So, which means you have to deliver. So many products these days are promising something and not delivering on them. And it takes time to build something that actually does deliver lasting quality. And that's why we've been in build mode for so long, because we've been focused on just that. But I think it's all around trust and being the name in the industry that people trust, and that's what we're going to try to do as much as possible.
Yeah. I love the deep conviction, like, and the belief. Like that is what it takes when you're building something. You have to believe it 1,000%, with
Yeah,
anything.
you have to be
And work towards it
delusional.
every day.
You're literally delusional, but you have to be. They're like statistically probably not going to happen, but in my mind, it is going to
It's
happen.
already happened.
And it is the only version of the world that I see existing. And so I'm going to keep going towards that.
Perfect. Keep going. Keep
I
going.
love
Well, tell us a little bit about you, Gabrielle. Like what do you do if there's anything outside of Dessn right now, like hobbies, personal interests?
I love cooking. I think it's one form of art that one I love to consume. Food is one of my favorite forms of art to consume. And it's one of my favorite forms of art to execute on and kind of have it calms my mind quite a lot, actually, I find. Unfortunately, it's something that I've given up. Literally this week is the first week I've received my meal plan. I've had to give up cooking for a little bit. I have no time. So it's a little bit sad to see that part of life kind of, giving up that part of life. But I know it's temporary, and I know, I'll get back to it. But I do love cooking. I think about, how much cooking is science versus art. I think it's a beautiful mix of both, when you understand the science. And there's so much science to it. It's beautiful. There's chemistry, but there's also physics because is it a stainless steel pan? But it's also kind of chemistry because it's how the I think molecules react to that type of pan and all of that. The flavor profiles and how they mix. There's, let's say in a salad dressing, you're going to want a fat and an acid. And then, so that's the science, right? And then I think the art comes in if, are you choosing vinegar or lemon as your acid? And, that kind of, you get into creation mode. And I know I can open up almost any fridge and pantry and create something. And it's just the like form of creation that is very freeing. And it's a form of love that I communicate to the people that I love. So I love having people over. I love cooking for people. Like a dinner table with really great food and nice bottles of wine is one of my favorite joys in life. And I'm not losing that because I can still have that like at a restaurant or that kind of thing. And so that's what I'm protecting over like actually cooking. But having that at home, with people in your space and kind of communicating that love, like that's why, cooking for me hits so many different parts of my joy. I think that's one of my side pieces.
I like want to have like a dinner party. I'm like,
Absolutely. Next time I'm in SF, we will do it.
I would absolutely, you can come over my house and
Amazing.
I will help you cook. I probably, but if
Amazing.
you want to just cook me a meal, just kidding.
I will. It'll be one of the first times I think I cook for someone in a very long time. So I will happily, as long as we have a glass of red, with us while we're cooking, we're golden. Okay, deal.
Deal. Do you, so you said you have meal plan now. Is that you're having meals kind of delivered to your home to try to like get more time, assuming, to work on Dessn?
Exactly. Yes, it is. It is exactly that. So, prepared meals, and you control your macros and that kind of thing, and they get delivered twice a week, either to the office or home. And that way, because when I get home, let's say after a long day, and I have to cook, but my mind is still on Dessn. Like I get home and I open my laptop, so it actually takes longer than you think it does when you actually have to cook and that kind of thing. And I look at the time and I'm like, by the time you finish the dishes and everything like that, it's just too long. So that just isn't something that I have to think about anymore. But I will still try to optimize for dinners out with company.
I totally understand this. And, it does take more time. Actually, the dishes
Yes.
just add up. It's like and you want to be clean and ready for the next
Yes.
day. You don't want to wake up and have dishes in the
Yes.
sink.
No. Exactly. It's just like, yeah, it aggregates. So I've decided that part I can outsource for now. And then maybe in the future it'll come back for me.
I love the framing of like, phases and seasons. Because I
Yes.
think that sometimes when you're in a moment, you're like, oh, I don't get to cook anymore. That's so not fair. Like, this is what I like to do. And you're like so zoned in on just that one thing. But then you look back and you take a step back. You're like, I'm probably not going to be able to cook for a little bit,
Yes.
but I'm doing this other thing instead, and it will come back. And I
Yes.
love that framing.
Yeah, I'm trying to, keep that. And then it's priorities. So one thing I don't want to give up is working out. So like me, instead of just kind of framing it as like, oh, I'm losing this, I'm also like gaining time for this other thing, that I haven't been able to do, let's say for the last couple of weeks. So it's an active choice of prioritization. So as long as, I think framing is important in so many parts of life. But these pieces are important too.
And how do you fit in your workouts now?
So I will try to go in the morning because being in London based as well, though a lot of our customers and users are in the US, so I tend to work later. And so my evenings are pretty short and I don't want to cut work like that. So I'll prefer going in the morning and then I start my day a little later and that's totally fine. And yeah, I'm preferring to do that. I'm looking for boxing classes again. I used to box. Yeah, I've lost it a little with the move and the hecticness of the last year, but now that I'm settled again, that's one of my priorities to find.
So now I'm learning so many new things, that you like to cook and you like to box.
Yes. One is about exerting my frustration, and one is about getting peace and calmness.
I love that. You're like, here's the love and here's the aggression. Get them both out.
There is both. They're both very much there.
I, so I let's, end on my favorite question.
Okay.
So my favorite question is, when did you feel that you're building something iconic? And it doesn't need to, state that's like, oh, I've built something iconic and I know this. I gave this example of, one day I was just driving in my car and it was like something came over me. Like it was like incepted into me. I was like, oh my God, Babco is going to be amazing. Like in that moment, I just felt it. I was like, and it was just, maybe it was my own belief, but it
Yes.
like manifested itself. I was like, Babco is going to be incredible. And I know that it's going to be iconic. Like
Yes.
I'm building up something incredible. And it was just that moment, that spark in me that was like, it keeps me going even when things get hard or I get tired. Cause I'm
Yeah.
like, this thing is happening.
Yes.
I'm curious if you had that moment for yourself.
I totally see what you're saying. I think there've been multiples because also, I mean, it's so cyclical and like that, it's a roller coaster. So there's not one thing I completely anchor on, but I mean, we did start Dessn with the conviction, right? And that this is going to be iconic. It has to be. I didn't quit my job to build something mediocre. So I, starting was even that, but then you have moments of external validation, I don't think that's underrated. Your first check, your first customer, not just your first customer, but your customer liking you and getting value from you, and those screenshots of people saying loving, like active users saying this is amazing. Those, yeah, just belief, like just people believing in you. It helps on the days when you don't believe in yourself. And so those, you remind yourself, no, like they love it, because it's so easy to see all the flaws in your product and all the things and everything left to build. And because there's so much left to build. But those days, those pieces I tend to anchor on. And honestly, I anchor on Nim. Like he is the smartest person I know, and the fact that he's chosen me as his co-founder is kind of like a moment of that I also anchor on. And it's like, and then I anchor on the team, and it's like, okay, I'm not just doing this for myself anymore. Like we do have a team, and they deserve for this to be successful. So you just kind of keep going. And I also want Dessn to be their moment of iconic. I want everyone that's touched Dessn for it to be iconic for them, for them to be, for Dessn to be their iconic thing. And so it's bigger than, me in that way, as cheesy as it can sound. But I don't know if I answered your question exactly, but I think, yeah, it's anchored in belief really around you. And yeah, the first check, customer, people telling you that this is amazing, but also like not just words, but like, because words can be words, as we all know, it's really like people using you and you seeing it work. Like it's actually working, and it's actually getting the value that you built it to. And those are the moments that you're like, oh shit, this is, yep, this is it. This is really truly it. And it's so exciting.
What I really love about that response is that it's I imagining kind of like these sprinkles of like these moments for you.
Yeah.
And I think that when you're building something, you kind of forget to like step back and like appreciate the little moments of milestones, because you're like, you want it as an ambitious person. You're like, I want it to be perfect. I want it to be at the end. I want it to be this thing that's done. But you, like, when you said that to me, it's like you're taking a moment in all these spaces, in all these little times that happen, these little milestones, and taking that moment to appreciate those milestones. And I think that that is like one of the best answers that you could give, because
Awesome.
I think you have to have that as you're building, because otherwise you get tired, and you get
Absolutely.
tired and overwhelmed. And then you don't want to build anymore.
Absolutely. No, it's so important. And yeah, I mean, sometimes I'm like, are we in the good old days? You know that quote of like, when you're in not good old days without knowing you're in the good old days. And there were many moments where, let's say it was Nim and I, and it was like very late night, and it's just him and I in the office, and I have my little plant, and we had ordered takeout, and it's like, yeah, I'm like, are we in the good old days? You can kind of like you have a little moment, and you're like, I think we're in the good old days. I think every stage is going to be amazing, but it is nice to have that little like reflection sometimes, because it's going to be so different as well. I'm very cognizant that it's going to change. How much Nim and I communicate is going to change. We're going to divide and conquer so much of what we have to do. And so, yeah, just kind of appreciating that the early moments is, I think, important.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'll finish with just like a few rapid fire questions
Okay.
here.
Okay.
Okay. And they're just going to be like random.
Okay.
Okay. So it's like, don't overthink them.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. I will try.
Your favorite thing to do to put you in your power stance, your power mode.
Make a checklist.
Ooh, interesting.
Mm.
Interesting. Okay.
Declutter. And I have to declutter. And the thing about checklists, I think, is they make you think you're in control. But they don't, you're not in control until you actually check off everything on the checklist. But they do, I think, have this psychological impact of like, okay, at least I know what I have to do. And that gets me in a good mode, because there's so much, and it's so sporadic, and it's so actually all over the place, that getting one list down definitely puts me in like power mode. I'm like, okay, let's go.
I love that response. I love my checklist too. So I'm like,
Yeah, it's there. Yeah.
okay, let's see. One thing that you like to do that is not related. I think we kind of covered this, but one thing you don't like to do, the one thing you like to do that's outside of Dessn.
I would say cooking, and working out. And I love spending time with the people I love. Like my friends and my family mean a lot to me. I love very deeply. I'm actually pretty emotional, and my friends are also just amazing people, and I love spending time with them and enjoying each other's company. And they're also all really smart and fun. And we'll go out, we'll have food, we'll live life together, and it is something that I like to make time for. We'll see plays, we try to like actively do really fun things. So I guess that's not a hobby, but it's part of my life.
It's a perfect response. I mean, if you're not living life, what is it all for? You can't
Yeah,
just build. You
I,
gotta live life.
agree. I agree. SF sometimes doesn't agree with me, but I think, yeah.
Well, I mean, there are people out there that, they spend all the time building up front and they backload the fun. And
Yeah,
that's okay too.
that is absolutely. And that's the thing. I mean, I'm slowly seeing that come in, with the giving up of things. But hopefully I'll be able to find a good balance all over. But the company is the priority. But, family and friends are too.
what would you say to someone who's starting to build something right now? What's one piece of advice you'd give them?
Um, I would say trust yourself, really. I think I think trusting yourself and believing in yourself is 95% of it. And so I think you can find the other 5%, but that 95% you can't really craft, or make up. It has to be deeply rooted. And there are days that are going to challenge that, but just try to anchor towards that. And I think trust yourself in so many things. A lot of the world doesn't make sense. So it's, the people that maybe sometimes look like they have it figured out, and like they're doing it like this, so I should do it like this. I think, questioning everything is also very important, and trusting your instincts are very important. So I think that's a big part of being successful in building something.
I love everything you said today.
Thank you.
And I am so grateful that you were on, and I'm so looking forward to getting to know you over time. And this won't be the last, it
Awesome.
wasn't the first time we talked, it won't be the last time we talked. But
No, of
thank you for
course.
taking the time. As you said already on this podcast, we know you're busy. So I appreciate, the hour that you put here because it could have been an hour you put somewhere else.
My
So thank you
pleasure.
for coming on.
You're a great podcast host. Thank you for having me on. This was really fun.